You don't raise your voice. You listen. You notice when someone's tone changes. You sense tension before a word is spoken. And somehow, you always end up being the one who gives more. More patience, more understanding, more second chances. You tell yourself it's because you're kind, because you care, because you don't want conflict. But deep down, there's a quieter truth you rarely say out loud. You are exhausted, not from loving others, but from never feeling safe enough to stop loving them first. Here is the paradox that defines your inner world. The trait that once protected you is now the trait that makes you vulnerable. Your kindness didn't begin as a moral choice. It began as a strategy, a way to stay connected, a way to avoid abandonment, a way to make sure no one had a reason to leave. And the world rewarded you for it. At first, people praised your empathy. They leaned on you. They trusted you, until some of them learned something dangerous. You will bend before you break. You will forgive before you are protected. You will explain their behavior before you honor your own pain. And slowly, invisibly, kindness turns into a trap. Not because kindness is wrong, but because it was never meant to replace boundaries. To understand why kind people are easily manipulated, we must first strip kindness of its moral mythology. In psychology, this pattern is often rooted in conditional attachment. When love in early life is inconsistent, emotionally unpredictable, or earned through compliance, the nervous system adapts. This is not weakness. This is adaptation. 1. Anxious attachment. At the center is anxious. Attachment, a relational style where safety depends on proximity, approval and emotional availability from others. The child learns, if I stay pleasing, I stay connected. If I upset them, I might lose them. Over time, the brain associates disagreement with danger. 2. Hypervigilance. Kind people are often hypervigilant. Their nervous system is constantly scanning. Tone shifts, micro-expressions, emotional temperature. This is not intuition, it is threat detection. The brain's amygdala becomes overactive, while the prefrontal cortex, responsible for boundaries and evaluation, gets overridden in emotionally charged moments. Kindness becomes a reflex, not a choice. 3. Fawn response. Alongside fight, flight, and freeze is a lesser-known trauma response. Fawn. The fawn response says, if I make myself agreeable, I will be safe. Kindness here is not generosity, it is appeasement. And appeasement invites manipulation because it signals one thing very clearly. My comfort comes second. The true cost of this pattern is not what others take from you, it's what you give up. You give up saying no without guilt. You give up being fully honest. You give up the luxury of rest. Carl Jung once said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Kind people often fear that if they stop being kind, they will stop being loved. So they sacrifice authenticity for belonging. They become emotionally fluent in others, but strangers to themselves. There is an invisible grief here. The grief of swallowed words, softened anger, boundaries never built. You rehearse conversations in your head. You feel tension when you imagine disappointing someone. Even peace feels unfamiliar, because chaos once meant connection. And so, life becomes complex. Simple requests feel heavy. Small conflicts feel catastrophic. Being chosen feels temporary, because deep down the core fear remains. If I stop being useful, will I still matter? This is not kindness. This is self-erasure disguised as love. This pattern does not disappear in adulthood. It simply becomes more sophisticated. You might over-explain your boundaries, hoping they'll be accepted instead of enforced. Attract emotionally unavailable partners who take but rarely give. Stay in jobs that drain you because you don't want to seem difficult. Apologize for having needs, even reasonable ones. Feel responsible for other people's emotions, even when they hurt you. Doubt your perception, asking yourself, am I overreacting? These are not personality traits. They are coping strategies, learned adaptations from a time when connection felt fragile. Healing does not begin by being less kind. It begins with witnessing the pattern without shaming it. You stop gaslighting yourself. You stop minimizing your discomfort. You notice the moment your body tightens before you say yes. And instead of overriding it, you listen. This is unlearning, not rejecting who you are, but separating who you are from what you learned to do to survive. Healing for kind people is not about becoming colder. It's about becoming whole. Inner child reparenting. You begin by offering yourself what was once missing: reassurance, consistency, protection. You teach your nervous system that love does not vanish when you say no. Shadow work. You allow yourself to meet the parts you buried. Anger, resentment, self-priority. Not to act them out, but to integrate them. Because boundaries are not cruelty, they are clarity. And perhaps the most radical shift of all, you choose softness with discernment. You remain kind, but no longer self-sacrificing. You give, but not at the cost of your dignity. As philosopher Simone Weil once wrote, attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. And now, finally, you turn that attention inward. You were never broken. You were adaptive. You were brilliant at surviving. But survival is not the same as living. And the goal was never to fix yourself. It was always to come home to yourself. If this resonated, share it with someone who gives too much and feels too little in return. And if you want to continue this journey of psychological depth and self-reclamation, subscribe, because kindness should never cost you your soul.